Conflict and Employment Dispute Specialist warns that a permanent solution is needed to ensure this doesn't happen again. Let's get more insight from him now. Andre Vlok joins us now virtually. Mr. Vlok, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. You heard there, I think, my colleague Kevin Brunt saying that this is something that's still going to be discussed. They've given each other 14 days. So really, it doesn't necessarily mean that the conflict has been, that the conflict is over. Mr. Vlok, I think you are muted. If you could just check for us that you're not muted.
After all these Zoom calls, I still mute myself.
No problem.
My apologies. My apologies. You're quite right. The conflict is a cyclical one. It's a complex one. And we see this every time. And as much as I'm relieved with everyone else that, for now, a peace has returned to the streets of Cape Town and that commuters can get on with their lives, we really need to keep an eye on this as this is the beginning. This isn't the end of the conflict. This should, for any responsible leadership on any of the sides, this should be the beginning of the way forward, of resolution. Certainly not, let's sit back and be relieved for a day or two, but certainly the work starts here.
And Mr. Vlok, I don't know if you saw that there was obviously some political fighting whilst people were being killed and dying, etc. At some point, we found out from the National Police Minister, Bheki Cele, during a media briefing, and he was with the mayor at the time, he didn't dispute this, that the mayor and the MMC responsible for safety in Cape Town, for instance, were not there during one or two of the meetings that were taking place with Santaco, and that also just gave the other side of the talks, Santaco, a certain message that they don't want to sort anything out. What would be your advice to the Western Cape government?
We've seen quite a few examples of we tend to think of this as a two-party or a binary type of conflict. It's not. There are several parties at this extended table, and examples like you've mentioned, Maseko, that creates impressions. It gives people the wrong impressions, and certainly that's not conducive to good conflict resolution. It's terrible leadership, with all respect.
And I think it's terrible leadership. I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It looks to us, at least as we're looking there as South Africans, that it's terrible leadership all around. Because as things are happening on the ground, politicians are fighting amongst themselves. At some point, the National Transport Minister said one thing, the MMC started responding, and now we're stuck in the middle.
Into this environment of instability, of uncertainty, our leaders bring more uncertainty, more complexity, more adversity, more insults. How they believe that that's conducive to conflict resolution. I know it's nearly election year, but really, it's absolutely irresponsible. I think the city's leadership has done a lot of good things. They ticked certain of the conflict management boxes quite correctly, but overall, as far as the wider canvas is concerned, they've certainly learned nothing. Any of the sides. We've seen this a year ago. This isn't a 2023 conflict. This has been coming for decades, and unless we change certain of these patterns, these conflict patterns, you and I will have this discussion next year and 5 years from now, and the same people will be suffering continuously. We need to start by understanding that this isn't really about taxis. It's not really about transport. This is the symptom. The causes remain completely unattended to. I sometimes get the impression that they're misunderstood, or that they're not really as important to those people who need to fix them as they should be.
What about
we
Santaco?
Continuously deal with the symptoms.
Yeah.
Well, Santaco's got a lot to improve and a lot to apologize for at this stage on their own version. None of the issues now on the table required or justified the I'm not saying that they necessarily involved of some of the things we saw on our TV screens, but certainly this is how, and our courts have expressed views on this often. You cannot start a strike or a stay away like this and then sit back and wash your hands as to the consequences. Look at what's on the table now. Has any of that justified what we saw this last week? Certainly not. As far as conflict management is concerned, Santaco has played an awful role in this, and they have much to apologize for and to fix for next time.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Vlok, thank you very much for your time. I think in all of this, of course, everybody has a role to play, whether it be government or Santaco itself and the taxi operators. Meanwhile, it was the commuters who were suffering, unable to put food on the table for some of them because of the work, no pay policy. But let's leave it there for now. Thank you for your time. Conflict and Employment Dispute Specialist Andre Vlok.